Hey, I'm Pete Gluzek.
And I'm Ike and Pete.
And this is Bass University TV. And we're here today on, man, these are some really cool conditions we have out here today. It got overcast, fog laying, a lot of mats of vegetation. It makes me feel like frog fishing.
It does. You look around, I mean, we're literally in the jungle here, you know, we've got a lot of cover. Couldn't think of a better place to throw frogs.
We want to make these baits move back and forth. For those of you who don't know what walking the dog means, you want that to dart back and forth, back and forth. And in my frog fishing, I power it through that. You know, I make a lot of commotion, and I've seen a lot of other guys do that. But what was so cool about watching Ish fish it is he uses a subtle approach.
Yep.
Right? He doesn't make the water splash crazily. He uses a real subtle twitching of the rod tip to get that light walk the dog action. And it's just real light twitches of the slack in the line to make that bait walk the dog. And that slower movement, but a lot of action, keeping the bait in the strike zone longer.
Yeah.
You know, doing and not being so overbearing.
Yeah.
I thought that part was amazing.
That's awesome. Putting a little bit of finesse touch on what is essentially a power fishing lure.
Exactly.
You know, what you said about the bait moving or walking, that's key. That's important. And I get so many questions and comments about, you know, people having a hard time walking it. And I think what you said about the slack is real important, you know. So, you know, basically what you just did is the key to that motion, which is throwing a little bit of slack into each twitch, you know? And if you watch Pete as he's walking that dog, every time that bait moves, there's a little bit of slack in that line. And that's key. That's definitely a key movement. You know, one of the other keys is what you said, which is the pause, you know? And that's where those legs are going to really help. So, you know, every time you pause that bait, those frog legs are going to flare out and kick out. And that's key to triggering a strike.
No doubt, no doubt. The letting the frog rest for a period of time can be a big deal.
Yep.
Something else that a lot of people do, and I do myself, if you're having trouble walking the dog, is cut a little bit off the tails. That'll allow a little less drag on the frog, and it'll allow that bait to dart back and forth a little bit easier. But key is practice, practice, practice. You know, you got to take these baits out and spend a little time with them, because it's not a real natural movement. And that slack in the line is key. A lot of people will pull that taut line, and what's that do? That causes the frog to move straight at you.
Straight, yeah.
And by allowing that slack, it allows that bait to turn a little bit. And twitching that slack in the line, boy, that's key.
Hey everybody, Ike and Pete back here. Want to show you the frog modifications. These are the 3 modifications that Ish does on every one of his frogs. You know, you got a big box of frog, you take it out of the pack, you open it up. Here's the 3 things you really want to concentrate on. The first one's the skirt, you know, and if you look at how Ish cuts the skirt, he's always doing it on an angle. So he's making the skirt shorter, but doing it on an angle, he's actually changing the profile of that skirt a little bit. So we're going to take our scissors, we're going to get our skirt, and instead of cutting it straight like most guys do, watch how when you cut it on an angle, cut each side on an angle, it's going to make that skirt shorter on one side and a little longer in the middle. We want to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to cut it on an angle, that same profile. So now you've got a little bit shorter skirt that's cut on an angle, and you're going to get that flare. So the first thing we want to do out of the pack, cut that skirt. We're going to take about 1/8 of an inch off and cut it on an angle. The next thing that Ish does that's super important is
Hey, I'm Pete Gluzek.
And I'm Ike and Pete.
And this is Bass University TV.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Gluzek, Ike and Pete, and their talented special guests.
Everywhere I go in the country, I'm trying to use these techniques because I catch big fish that way.
From on the water to in the classroom,
we want to use that bait to help make that area even smaller and really, really find that sweet spot.
You'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills.
You want something that's got a nice limber action, that's going to allow you to build pressure and keep those hooks pinned against that fish's mouth.
Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time.
Hold on, because you're going to catch some big fish.
Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best.
That's a key theory in all of fishing.
Subscribe to Bass University TV today.
Man, does it trigger a lot of strikes.
here's the part that you're not going to hear anywhere else. This is the Bass University TV exclusive.